In this video, we're going to be going over the pathways and guidances to doing the section 2.3 exercise on big ideas for today on Wednesday, February 7th. And so the thing that makes 2.3 different from 2.2 is that 2.3 is all about subtracting rational numbers. And just as a reminder, a rational number, you can see the word ratio in there. And if we know ratios is things like 1 to 2 or 3 to 4. So what a rational number is a fraction or a decimal. And even whole numbers, so integers, could also be rational numbers because we could turn a number 5 into 5 over 1 or 5 to 1. And that's also a rational number. That's also considered a fraction. So rational numbers are just fractions, decimals, and whole numbers, so integers. So in exercise 4, we're being asked to subtract these two values here, negative 1 and 1/3 minus 1 and 2/3. And so the easier way of doing this that you guys are used to is by doing a keep, change, change. So that's the number one hint for all of these problems, that you're going to be doing keep, change, change in order to solve these problems out a little easier. So I'm going to do my own example. I'll do negative 2 3/5 minus 1 2/5. Okay, so I gave myself the same denominator just like you guys have the same denominator there. So we're going to be able to skip that step. And then I've got negative 2 3/5 minus 1 2/5. I'm going to do a keep, change, change just to make that a little easier for me to understand. So now I've got negative 2 3/5 plus negative 1 2/5. And so because they're the same sign, they're both negative, I'm going to be adding the numbers, same sign, add and keep. So you're going to keep the sign. So negative 2 3/5 plus negative 1 2/5. I'm about to draw the most perfect circle you've ever seen. Beautiful. And so I've got negative 2 3/5. I really should just drop out of school and become an artist. Oh, good enough. Okay, so we've got negative 2 3/5. There's my two holes. And then 3/5. And then I'm going to be adding negative 1. So I'm still going to keep it in the same color. Negative 1 2/5. Okay, so looking at this negative 2 3/5 plus negative 1 2/5, I can see that I've got this hole here that I'm just going to be adding to this. So my answer is going to be somewhere in the negative 3. And then I have 2/5 here. And I've got 3/5 that I need to fill up. And when I do that, that 2/5, when you add it to that 3/5, that fills up these two missing pieces that we've got over here. We're missing these two pieces to come into a hole. Well, this has two pieces over here. And so adding that will just make this, I'm going to erase this, it's just going to make my answer a total of negative 4. Because this 3/5 was added to the 2/5, and 3/5 plus 2/5 is 5/5, but we don't call that 5/5, we call that a whole. So my negative 2 and my negative 1 added to become negative 3, and then my negative 3/5 and my negative 2/5 added to become another whole, and so negative 3 plus negative 1 became negative 4. Now for you thinkers who kind of see things more by the numbers rather than by the drawings, let me just go ahead and show you also how we could solve this out. I could turn this into improper fractions, so this would be negative 13 over 5 plus negative 7 over 5, which is going to give me negative 20 over 5, and then negative 20 divided by 5 is negative 4. So however is faster for you to do it, and not so much also faster, but whatever helps you understand it too, is the technique that I want you to use. But I just wanted to show you both techniques. Definitely good to understand why it is that those add up to equal whole numbers, and that's because they fill in each other's gaps. So hopefully that will help you out for number 4. Number 5, again, all of these problems we're going to be doing keep, change, change, so make sure that you knock that part out first. And I'll give my own example. I'll do negative 3 minus 4.5, so it's something kind of similar. And again, I'm going to do a keep, change, change. And I'm doing -3 plus -4.5. So that's like $3 plus $4.50 is going to give me $7.50. But because this is negative, it'll be a negative $7.50. So we're in debt $7.50. Another way, if you wanted to stack the numbers together, if that helps you out, then we could have done 4.5, and then they're both negative, so we're adding the numbers, and then put the 3, and then we can add a decimal and a 0, because $3 would look like this, 3 with 2 zeros, but we just need to add 1 0. Adding those numbers together gives me 7 and 5, and then we're going to bring the decimal straight down, so 7 and 5/10, both of them were negative, so it's going to be -7 and 5/10 in my example. So go ahead and try that next one on your own. Exercise 6, we're subtracting fractions. And what do we do when we have a subtraction problem? Keep, change. We can turn that -5 into a whole number by putting it over 1. And then I think from there you should be able to figure out what happens next when finding the lowest common denominator and then simplifying it. Make sure you always put your answer in simplest form, and then don't forget to check whether it should be positive or negative. Exercise 7, I will do a similar example. Let's do -5 and 1/3 minus 12 and 1/4. So I was talking to some of you guys yesterday about how, looking at this problem, if I have -5 and 1/3, so here's a number line, here's 0, and then -5 and 1/3 would be somewhere to the left of 0 because it's in the negatives, and I'm subtracting 12, taking away 12. To take away on number line means to go to the left. And so if I'm taking away 12 and 1/4 from -5 and 1/3, then that means my answer needs to end up somewhere around -17, because -5 minus 12 is going to be somewhere around -17. Now that's not my answer, but I know that it's going to be somewhere around there. If I were to get anything to the right of -5 and 1/3, like a -1 or a +1 or a +17, then I know that I did something wrong, because to start at -5 and 1/3 and to subtract 12 means I'm going to be going to the left. So my answer should be something less than -5 and 1/3, something to the left of -5 and 1/3. So now let's go ahead and solve out this example. I'm going to turn both of these into improper fractions after I do my keep, change. Turning them both into improper fractions is going to be -17/3 plus -49/4. The lowest common denominator of 3 and 4 is going to be 12. And then 3 to get to 12, I'm going to multiply both of my top and bottom, my numerator and denominator, by 4. And then for 4 to get to 12, I'm going to multiply both of those numbers by 3. So I chose some big numbers here. But 16 times 4 is going to give me a 64, and then that was a negative times a positive, so that's a -64. And then -49 times 3 is going to give me 137 negative. Because these are both negative numbers, I'm going to add the numbers together, so it's -64 plus 137. That's going to give me -201/12. And then you can determine what this is going to be as a mixed number by doing your division. So that's 201 divided by 12. 12 goes into 201. Let's see, that's going to go in one time. The remainder of 81 is going to be Yep, 6. So something like 6, 72. Going to be something in the -16 and 9/12. And then 9/12, that's the same thing as 3/4. So it's going to be -16 and 3/4 is going to be my final answer. So a few steps in there, but nothing too complicated. I think your numbers are going to be easier than my numbers because I just made them up on the spot and got a kind of big number there. But you'll be able to knock that out no problem. And then number 18 is very similar to the number 20 from last exercise, we're adding 3 fractions. Only difference with number 18 is that we have some subtraction going on, but again, keep change properly, and after that, you'll just be able to knock it out just like the last 3 fraction problem on the 2.2 exercise. So if you need any help, just look back at that work, and if through any of this you're totally confused, don't understand anything you've asked,